So I'm going to go back so that we get the recording of the. Yeah.
We may hear an audio prompt. I don't recall.
I don't want to ask a question.
But I think we're recording, so I think we're good.
All right. Looks more like a next-gen uniform, so red would be command, not security. So I'm safe. Hooray! Yes. Okay, so let's get started. All right, so here we are, David and I, as your crew members, taking you through outcomes today. So we have an incoming transmission. Just real quickly, using the chat features, we just wanted to kind of get a feel for the room. So if you would respond in the chat, are you aware that the district posts your intended course level objectives in Web Advisor? So give us a thumbs up for yes, or a thumbs down for no, or you can use the little confused face for what? Where is that?
I'm seeing thumbs up. That's reassuring.
That's awesome. Anybody not know where to find that? And Dave is sharing that direct link. Thank you so much. So we just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware that those objectives are posted for you. You don't have to go hunting them down, but I know I just started at Connect in November, and I had to ask, and I asked around the team, and everybody kind of has a different way to get there. So as long as you have a way to get there, I highly recommend bookmarking that resource so that you have it and it's one click for you rather than 6 clicks. Awesome. Fantastic. All right. So what are the purpose of outcomes? District and course learning outcomes should state what students are expected to know or be able to do upon the completion of a course or a program. They should be observable and measurable. Just as a note, a side note, TCC's district outcomes, some of them are written in such a way that measurement is a little bit tricky, which is why we're going to talk about creating module level and module specific outcomes, which you can always do. They should contribute to or map to the TCC district course syllabi. And if you have this presentation linked, this is hyperlinked straight to those resources, that same link that Dave just shared in the chat. So feel free to bookmark that so that it's one click, super easy for you. And be readily available to students and aligned with course learning outcomes. It is really important that students understand why they're learning something. And directing them to those outcomes and posting them in your course, of course, is an expectation of the institution, but it also helps the students know why they're learning something. So now we're going to talk a little bit about module learning outcomes, and we're going to do really quick highlight overview, and then we're going to go into a course dev shelf so that we can actually see how these outcomes can work and help you. Module learning outcomes should state what they're expected to know or be able to do within a specific module. It's obviously much smaller scope than a course level outcome, a little bit more specific in nature. They should be clearly stated and relate specifically to the topics, assignments, exams, and other assessments in the module. And one of the things that you're going to see in the examples that David and I are going to show you today is we're trying to model listing those modules on those assignments. I know that some of our team members like to actually put the module into the assignment name. Sometimes you just like to put it in the directions. It helps the student know what it is specifically they're learning. Also, if you align your content, your readings, and your assessments together and your assignments together with those modules, if a student is struggling on an assignment, they can go back to a specific reading because the reading is targeted to that module assignment, so it can help support their learning. They should be measurable and observable. Again, should be something that you can say they met this or not, and it should align with and map to specifically the district and course learning outcomes. So if you're teaching a module outcome that doesn't directly tie to a course outcome, question is, why are you teaching it? Is it something that you love and is just for fun? Or is it something that maybe we should be forwarding to the ACT and asking to be added to those district outcomes, something that maybe we're missing? And Dave put in a great comment. The basic structure of learning outcomes is that by the end of the module, students will be able to do something. Think of it as a set of skills or abilities that your students will be able to demonstrate. Absolutely. All right, so this is one example of how to write an outcome or a goal, a SMART outcome. It's one of my favorites, I think, probably because it's really easy. SMART stands for specific. And we've just kind of given you some questions that you can ask when you're thinking about writing these kinds of objectives or learning outcomes. So is it specific? What do you want them to achieve? Where are they going to find it? What conditions and limitations do they have? Measurable. So how much, how many? They should be able to list 3 causes of the American Revolution or 3 outcomes of the American Revolution. It should be achievable. How are they going to get there? If you're asking them to understand all of American history in a 16-week course, that's probably not achievable. It's much more chunked. You know, we tend to chunk U.S. history into pre-American Revolution to Civil War and then Civil War to the modern era, because that's achievable. We can talk about those chunks of time in 16 weeks. We can't talk about all of human history or world history in 16 weeks. It's just a lot. It should be relevant. How does it connect to real world application? Does it match the district objective, goals, and mission? Look and direct yourself to the 3G8P. Is it student related? And it should be time bound. Can it be completed in a semester? Can it be completed in a unit? Can it be completed in a week? Are you giving them, are you chunking it in such a way that the objective you're asking them to do in a week is doable? So that really helps me. And I try to look at all those things. And I love those questions because it helps guide me. So hopefully. Yes, Dave has an excellent point. Specific does also tie into alignment. And we do want our objectives to be aligned. We're talking about quality matters and quality matters alignment and quality matters management of our rubrics. And they specifically look at alignment. You know, your course goals have to match your module goals. So have you used the outcomes feature in Canvas? Have you added an objective using the outcomes tool? Yes, thumbs up, no, thumbs down. Question, the little confused face, what is it? Where is it? I've never heard of it. What are you talking about? Are you familiar with the outcomes feature in Canvas? Oh, I've got a confused face. And I'm going to count on David to tell me if this actually switches out. So Dave's going to share a link, awesome, on how to do this. But if you look, can you see, I'm going to drag this over. Can you see my outcomes course?
It's unfortunately, Lindsay, it's a little small given the large monitor we have, but I think they can see it to some extent.
Okay, so I apologize for the size. But if you are in a course, if you look over on your left-hand side on your navigation, you will notice that you have an option that says outcomes. Now, the little crossed out eyeball means that it's not visible to students, but you as a course instructor will have this. And this is where we're going to spend a lot of time today. We've actually made this dev shell. You can make the outcomes visible to students just by clicking on that eyeball. Yeah, we all want this monitor. And I highly recommend that you use this because we're going to talk about the advantages of using this really quickly, but this is where you find it. And if you click on it, it's going to take you into the outcomes. We're going to get a little bit deeper into this, but it actually tells you on the outcomes page how to set up an outcome. Now, one of the things that I'm really excited about, and I want to say this now before I forget, is this sentence right here where it says, in order to import a large quantity of outcomes at once or update your existing outcomes, please follow the CSV format. I'm really excited to say that the instructional design department is working this spring and throughout the rest of the year to create CSVs for all of our courses that we offer at Connect so that you can import those outcomes without actually having to type them. That's a new project that we're working on. We're really, really excited about it. We're just getting started on it, but we're going to start with some of the more popular courses first and work our way down. as well as offer those PDC courses. So we're really excited. It'll save you a little bit of time. And they will come with directions on how to complete that import. But we're very, very excited to do that. So that's where you find it, is right here in your menu. And if you click on it, it will take you there. And we're going to talk more about it in just a minute. But I'm going to move this out of the way. And I'm going to go back to my slideshow. I do want to point out that on the slideshow, it says creating outcomes in Canvas. If you hover over this little Canvas icon and you click on it, it will actually take you to the directions on how to do that. It's embedded in the presentation, so it teaches you how to make an outcome for a course. And I think Dave shared that link already. But that's what that little icon does, which is super helpful, I think. If you don't know how to create an outcome or you forget, you can bookmark that resource and come back to it later. And then we also have how to use outcomes with Canvas quizzes. So again, if you click on that little Canvas icon, it will take you straight to a direction on what Canvas outcomes are, along with rubrics and quizzes. There is another session on rubrics, and it talks about classic quizzes versus new quizzes. One of the things that you need to know is that outcomes will automatically align with new quizzes. They do not align with classic quizzes. So if you add outcomes to a quiz, you will get data on new quizzes. You will not get it on classic quizzes. So let's just do a really quick check. Which quiz type lets you add outcomes? And I apologize for not looking at the camera. I like to look at the chat, which means I can't look two places at once because my eyes don't move that way.
Lindsay, I'm going to give him a hint. It's not classic.
New. Oh, Venancio, love that with the flashy flash. Yes, new quizzes will give you that data, which is really, really fantastic. All right, so we're going to jump right into the course dev shell. We're going to follow Picard and make it so, and jump right into that course dev shell. And I apologize for the size. I really do. Oh, I didn't make it go. I'm so sorry. Here you go. I missed your fun animation. All right, so I apologize for the size. So what we're going to do is in any course you have these outcomes, and Dave did an amazing job. He really helped create this fantastic course. And you click on the outcomes. I have some preloaded already, but I'm going to show you how you can add them. So what do you think you're going to click in order to add those outcomes? You've only been able to use Classic because of Proctorio. I understand that. Yes, the monitoring tools.
Do note though that Instructure, the company that actually developed Canvas, has said that at some point those classic quizzes are going to go away. I don't know when that's going to be. I think that's still a bit of a mystery, but at some point Proctorio will have to adjust something on their end to align with those new quizzes, because that's all that's going to be left. I guess Julia's saying it's this year sometime, so we have that to look forward to. So wean yourself off classic quizzes sooner than later is I guess the takeaway.
And new quizzes are accessible, and classic quizzes they have some accessibility issues. So it benefits you to try this. But if you click on that little plus, it will open up an outcome. And you notice that you get the little target right here, and you can name the outcome. You can name it anything. We have a naming convention that we're going to use for those imports, which I'm going to show you when I click on this folder. The friendly name is, if you are searching, it's what you would type to search for it. So for example, this is a history course 1302. And so you can use the same friendly name for a bunch of outcomes. I typed in history. The description, I highly recommend putting in whatever the outcome is. So it's really easy. I'm just going to name this one blah, and I'm going to name it blah, blah. And I'm going to type in blah, blah, blah. Just to give you an example, it will tell you how many words it is. And for purposes of a rubric, it actually allows you to set those expectations down here at the bottom. Again, there is a rubric class coming up later. And there are other things that you can add. You don't have to choose any of these things. Canvas outcomes features at the course level only, therefore it is different from integrating a Canvas assignment that links to institutional learning outcomes for district assessment. That is a very good point, Grace. You're correct. But however, you can bring in those institutional learning outcomes into and set them. And then once you create them, you have them and you can assign them. And then you just click save. So if you're using decaying averages, you can set all those things, you can save. And once you save it, you can edit it and do all those things. I have grouped History 1302's district outcomes in a folder. That's what grouping is. And you notice that I have used a naming convention. I used the title of the class, and then I went through each outcome. So the first learning objective was 1, and it was A. And you can see if I go into edit, you can actually see that this is the learning outcome that we say that students will have. Create an argument through the use of historical evidence by using appropriate reading, listening, and writing, and critical analysis skills by, and then the A part is comprehending text and other documents. So what we're going to do is set up all of those district syllabi expectations for you so that you can import them and use them. And you'll notice that it says history. And if I click on 1B and I choose edit, it says history as well. So if I click on the little magnifying glass and I choose, I have to go into, David, where do we store this one? Resources?
Which one are we looking at? Sorry.
This dev class, this demo class.
Oh yeah, sorry. It's in let's see, hang on one sec. Let me get the link to it here.
Probably under training and resources. I have so many
sub accounts. If I recall, that's where I moved it to.
Sorry, I forgot that it does this. I apologize.
Bear with me.
Ideally, you will have module and lesson specific outcomes as well as those that align to the district level outcomes. That's right. But more granular outcomes can be included. That's absolutely right.
Does that link help you, Lindsay?
Possibly. Let's see. It took me out to the main screen. All right. So if I want to find an outcome, let's see if it'll pull up for me. I can search for it, and it's not letting me do that, but I'll show you where to search for it in another tool in just a second. You can do a search and find, I can look in the history standards and find other ones that are available to me. And I can import those into my class. So I can import the historical knowledge outcomes as well. And you can click the import and you can upload. This is where you would upload that CSV that I talked about a little bit. So you have this list of outcomes available to you. And we're going to talk about really quickly, whoops. We're going to talk about really quickly, I'm going to move this out of the way. What are some reasons that we might establish outcomes or learning objectives for students? Why is it important that we do this? What do you think? So I'm going to make that bigger so you can see it. What are some reasons that establishing objectives or student learning outcomes are important? I'm going to watch the chat and see what we think. Why would we do this in the first place? Students know what they are expected to learn. Yes, Wanda. They want to know, to have standard expectations of the course. Yes, absolutely. Everybody's teaching the same thing. We're teaching history at 1302. Everybody's teaching the same thing. And students do want to know what they're supposed to learn. If you check Rate My Professor, you will notice that one of the common themes is our students always want to know why they're learning something. I'm still a topic back. Looks like new quizzes still aren't populating correctly in the to-do list for teachers. New quizzes and remove them because they're so hard to grade. One would hope so. So definitely students want to know what it is that they're learning. It aligns, again, it's that alignment piece between the course objectives, the district objectives, and those module objectives. If you're teaching it in the module, it should align to a course objective, which we're pulling from the district. So we want that alignment, as well as students want to know what they're learning, and we get that alignment across all courses. All right, so how do we do this? So if we're in our little course, they are the foundation of course design. You are right, David. And we want a strong foundation because you can build a shack and it might survive a rainstorm, but it probably won't survive a hurricane. All right, so if we have this little course, this is our demo course, and I go into the modules. I think we have quizzes. Here we go. And we have quizzes added to our little course. We have some assignments. We have this Apollo quiz on the Apollo program. And I click on build in my course. I'm going to go into my adding of questions. You will notice at the very, very top, it has outcomes right here. And if I click on it, it will allow me to align those learning objectives to my quiz. Now, assigning them here means that I am assessing those things on this quiz. You can also, and I'm going to show you in just a minute, assign outcomes to individual questions. So you can list all of the outcomes that are being assessed on a quiz at the top, and then you can individually assess different questions and say this question is assessing this learning outcome, or you might be building a quiz that only assesses one or two outcomes, and then you're going to do something like that. So all you have to do is click on it and it'll let you browse, and I'm going to pick on history 1302, and it shows me all of these outcomes that are available, and I can read them, and all I have to do to pick it is, for example, let's see, we have economics, sociology. I'm going to say other relevant disciplines because it's the Apollo program, so that's science. And I'm going to pick 4C. Oh, that's immigration. Let's see, social growth. And we're going to confirm the alignments, and it automatically assigns these here. So the student can see those, that this is what that quiz is assessing. Then I can go into my editing button on my question, and down here under align to outcomes, I can choose which one of those or another one that it might be testing. I can pick and choose. Now, if I'm not totally certain, I can type in, for example, the word space, and notice that I can choose those outcomes. That's that search I was talking about. And I can click confirm alignments, and it will put those there. Notice that it does not add it at the top. I have to go back up to the top if I want to list those as specifics that are pulling. I think that's a suggestion that maybe we should make to Canvas, is that when you add it to a question, it should automatically add it at the top of the quiz. But you can align those different questions. Now, why would you do that? Well, when I get my student data, and it tells me there are 4 outcomes aligned to this quiz. When I get my results, I can actually go into the gradebook and see how different students did on different types of questions. And it helps us know we can drive our instruction based on how students are doing on specific types of questions. Perhaps they're always missing questions on the Apollo program. Perhaps they're always missing questions on Pythagorean theorem in math. And we can go back and we can say, we need to bolster that instruction. Maybe it was something that you only had one reading on in the module, and you need to support more instruction in order for students to get that. Maybe it was something that you thought that you instructed really, really well, and students just didn't understand the instruction. It can help you drive your instruction and improve through process improvement our instruction and what we provide to our students. Additionally, as we look at this, we can go back and look at the quizzes. So we have this classic quiz. You'll notice that we do not have the option to align objectives to the classic quiz, but that doesn't mean that you can't do it. It just means that if you're going to use classic quizzes, what you probably should do is click on the question, and in the question here, you're going to type in, I would suggest putting in like module objective MO 1.1, and then you know which one it's testing. You can see based on, you can see immediately, or CO, course objective, whatever it is. You can save those, and then you'll have that tracking data. It doesn't give you the same kind of tracking data that you get in new quizzes, where you can actually see it in the grade book. The other thing that you can do, and as I said, there's another class coming up, another session on rubrics. Once you have those outcomes assessed, if you click on the rubric, you can click Find Outcome, and you can assign outcomes to different parts of the rubric. So you can say the reason that we're grading on this, for example, down here at the bottom of history, we have these assessments on how they can demonstrate social responsibility, how they can demonstrate personal responsibility, how they can demonstrate communication skills. So that might be a writing thing. So this might be in that rubric because you're having them write. So you have them exceeds meeting or does not meet expectations. You can import that, and it will automatically assign that portion of your outcome to your rubric. So you can say, this is the thing you were supposed to show mastery of, and you did or didn't do it. And you can go to that rubrics class and learn more about that. One of the benefits is when you go to the grade book and we go to the Apollo program, and I may have to actually have a quiz, and you take the quiz. So I'm going to take it. I'm just going to check a bunch of answers. I may not be right. It's grading my quiz. I didn't do very well.
Did you need another attempt on that quiz, Lindsay?
I probably did need another attempt on that quiz. I was not a strong quiz. I was not doing well in that quiz. But if you go in, you can see on your outcomes, and I've forgotten where it is because I'm goofy. If I can pull it up. It's not letting me do it. It should show me my overall stuff and show me what they missed. But I can look at the different questions and see that I assigned the outcome to it and how many kids missed it.
Lindsay, I just included a link to the report that you can look at based on the people and the enrollments. So there might be a couple different ways to get there, but that might be one way.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. You can get reports on how we did. So let's see. This is what happens when you forget to look.
The way you took that test, I don't know if you'll be able to demonstrate it because you were probably in student view, but if you have an actual genuine group of students in a course, you can go to the people link and look at the individuals enrolled in the course, and by name you can look for certain outcome information.
There it is. It's the outcomes report. Yes. Thank you, David. I appreciate that. I forgot. You can't do it when you're in demo student view. It doesn't record it, but you can go look at your students and see how they did on a various outcome. Which another thing that's coming is regular and substantive interaction, and noticing that a student is consistently missing certain course objectives, you could reach out to them and say, hey, I noticed you're really struggling with this topic. Might help you track it. All right, so how are we doing? We feeling good? Feeling not so good? So whoops. This is the joy of using this big, huge screen. All right, so let's look. How can establishing module objectives in your course help students? How might it help you? How can it help your department chair or your dean? How can it help the institution? So think about those 4 questions. Think about what you just saw and the option to get those outcome reports. How's that going to help you, the students, the department, and potentially the institution? Students get direction. They absolutely do. Since being able to see what they are expected to master shouldn't be a secret. No, it should not. You know, we all need to know what we need to know, and then they can focus on what they need to learn. Measurable accomplishments, absolutely. Did they get it? Did they not get it? Are they getting it only 50% of the time? A standard that is measured across a course with expectations can be reported for department information. Absolutely. Yes. And help us know, you know, is this textbook that we're using or this resource material, is it actually teaching this concept that we think is really important for our students to know? More informed students will hopefully lead to more successful students. Yes. I would throw in the way that it can help the institution is that the more information that we have, the better we have better opportunities we have to improve. And through process improvement, we offer better courses to our students, which makes us a better institution overall. We have great content now. There's always a chance for improvement. All right, so here is what we're going to challenge you to do. We're going to take the next 5 minutes or so, and David and I are here to answer questions. What we're going to challenge you to do is to add at least one course or module objective to an upcoming Canvas course that you have. Or potentially, if you're not teaching one this spring, you could add one to a class that you already have, or maybe if you have like a course sandbox, like a practice where you go and you practice things, you could add it there. And you may already have them added on your course syllabus, but go ahead and go through that process and add one right now. To click on those objectives, click add an objective, and once you put it in, you have it forever. So you're never going to have to retype it. You're never going to have to put it in again. But we're here now to help you, and so we want you to go ahead and try that right now.
And if you haven't bookmarked the Canvas site yet, or if you're not using your usual device, I went ahead and threw a link to Canvas out there in the chat.
Thank you so much, David. Yes, because trying to surf your way through the internet can be frustrating. And I know it's one of those things, a lot of times people are like, yeah, I'll do it later. But if you do it right now, you have it and you've tried it. If you put it off, you may forget about it and never come back to it. So take this time and go ahead and add one right now.
And I'm going to throw another link out here that I shared earlier in the chat, but if you missed it, this one is the overall instructor guide for Canvas relating to outcomes in general. So there are a lot of subheadings under this particular link that address specific questions on the use of outcomes in Canvas.
And they have up-to-date screenshots. They have the most information. When the instructional design team enters all the outcomes for each course, how and when can we find it to import? All right, that's a great question, Susan. We are going to put those, if I remember correctly, in the instructional resource hub, which is something new to y'all. That's coming out. You can watch on Wednesday for more information on it, but we actually have a new resource for you called the Instructional Resource Hub, and they will be labeled in such a way as so that you can find them, and they will be here. I believe they're being put in the instructional best practices section is where we're going to house them, but watch for our newsletter on Wednesday for more information on that. It's a great question. You are most welcome. And it will be in Canvas. Point of clarification, faculty cannot just create learning outcomes for courses. They must use what is in the district master syllabi as approved by the Texas THECB. That is correct. They can create module objectives. They cannot create course objectives. And those module objectives should align to the course objectives. If you need help with that, instructional design is here to help you. How do we link discussions and essays with outcome mastery? Melissa, okay. So let me make sure I understand your question. I see the help file on question bank. So if you had a discussion question and you wanted to do outcomes on it, or if you had an essay that you were doing and you wanted to do outcomes on it, how would you link that? Is that your question? When you're creating those? Yes? I love this screen and I hate this screen. There it goes. Okay. Let me go back to my demo class. Go quickly. So if I have an assignment like a discussion board and I want to create a discussion and I want to add an outcome to it, I would probably set this as discussion board 1.1, and I would, in my discussion board, just like I would in classic quizzes, I would probably put the module objective here, and I would also list it here for my students so that they know what they're being assessed on. There is not currently a way to import those outcomes like they are in the quizzes and new quizzes. So you can't just click that little target. However, you can put it in the assignment directions, or you can say, this is assessing this, and you can put it in the title of the activity so that you have it. And then when you publish it, you'll see that that's what that objective is aligned to. And I highly recommend that you do that. The same is true for an essay if you're having them turn in that kind of an assignment. So on assignments, you can click on assignment and you're making an assignment. You can put that module objective in the directions. You can also put it in the title so that you know that that's what's being assessed. Right now, they do not have the ability to align those objectives specifically. It's not connecting to that outcome report. No, that only is for new quizzes currently. But I do think that's a really, really good suggestion for Canvas. But it will not come on that report right currently. But I think that's something that maybe we should suggest to them and as a recommendation of, hey, we'd really like this so that we get that on our assignments and our discussion boards as well. Yes, I really like that idea. But you will get the feedback on your quiz, on new quizzes. All right, so I'm putting in a link to a feedback form for the session. You should get one at the end of every session today. Hopefully you've gotten some information that's useful to you and you feel like you're going to be able to do this and that you're going to be able to use outcomes, learning objectives. Those are all kind of substitution words for each other. The tool in Canvas is outcomes, but we say learning objectives in on our team and in the institution. So we use course objectives, we use module objectives, but the tool that you'll use is the outcomes tool in Canvas. And hopefully you have learned a little bit about that today and you're comfortable with adding those outcomes to your courses so that you can be tracking and getting that data that's useful to you. Are there any questions that we haven't answered so far? And I'm going to jump back to the first slide in the event somebody popped in late and they need that link. David, is there anything that we said we were going to cover that we missed?
I don't think so, Lindsay. I think that covers it. I do want to point out that we've got the feedback that Lindsay mentioned. We've got a link to that in the chat, and I'm about to include a general link for instructional design help. So if we did miss your question in the chat, or if you do think of something later, you can use that online form to submit a question to us. You can also feel free to email Lindsay or myself, but that form is generally a good way to get a hold of the next available instructional design team representative.
So what's the difference between classic quizzes and new quizzes? That is a great question. Really quickly, super fast highlight of the differences between the two. First of all, this makes me bonkers. There it goes. All right, so classic quizzes are the original quizzes that Canvas offered. They have limited question types. So this is the format of classic quizzes. Of course, you don't have that objective alignment in classic quizzes. And they have multiple choice, true, false, fill in the blank, multiple answers, multiple drop downs. They do have matching, and they have text questions. It's basically the standard size question. The difference is that new quizzes are, let me save that so I don't mess up Dave's example. The new quizzes have some different options. The build is slightly different. They have item banks that you can pull from. When you add a question, let me go down to the bottom here and add a question, you have some additional options on the new quizzes. There are category type questions. There are matching questions. There are ordering questions. There is a question called a hotspot question that is not accessible. There is a way to do that to use for students who need accessibility features, but it requires keyboard access only or screen readers, and it's not accessible, but the others are accessible use. And you do have the ability to align outcomes, and you can create item banks. So if you're doing module assessments and then you want to do an end of course assessment, you can actually add questions to your bank, and then you can create a bank of questions to make for the final examination. It's just a newer, more accessible version of the quiz test. And here, right here, under your reports and your new quizzes, here's your outcome analysis right here. Yeah, it says students must finish. But when you go back to your reports, it's right here. And you can see you get analysis of your questions, and you can get that analysis of your outcomes, which is a little bit different than what you get in the classic quizzes. Those features are not available. So they updated the classic quizzes and added some more features to make it more useful and give more information to the course instructor. Does that answer your question?
Lindsay, I wonder if you had anything to add. Gracie had raised a couple of points in the chat, and they were good and valid points in regard to the district mandates as far as outcomes go and what they provide. I don't want folks to come away with the idea, though, that they are handcuffed by those. And different division deans and department chairs may address the topic of outcomes differently, but I don't want folks to think that they can't write a good and effective outcome in their course just because their district has a certain set of mandated outcomes. Is there anything else you want to say to comment on that, or so we can direct folks appropriately?
I think you make an excellent point, Dave. Obviously we follow the district expectations first. We want alignment with module outcomes, and there are processes in place to get those additional things that maybe you feel potentially a course is not covering, and you think that it's really important. There are processes in place within your departments and within the institution to get those things added to the district outcomes. What we're really trying to encourage folks to do is consider what it is that you're asking students to do. Let them know what it is that they need to learn or what they're expected to learn, and then make sure that the content that you're covering covers those topics and doesn't miss it. You're not missing anything, or you're not adding additional material that isn't expected to be taught, and missing out on something that is. So again, those are great conversations to have, but I think you really covered that really well. Dave, you just put the feedback form back in. I think that's where we get the attendance to answer Wanda's question, the attendance.
Yeah, I believe that's the case. I'm double checking with Kim.
Yeah, we're going to check
stealthily
on
in
that
the background here. So
really quickly, because that's a great question. Is there a separate form that needs to be filled out? And as we are moving toward, to address Dave's other comment, as we're moving toward quality matters alignment, aligning to district and course objectives and expecting every module to have objectives, that's part of QM, the QM rubric. Our entire team has been through the first course of the application of the QM rubric. We're all working toward becoming QM certified. And that is an expectation that courses will have alignment, and they cannot be QM certified or QM aligned if they do not have that module and course alignment. We all learned that. That was very important. So
Kim did confirm that yes, the attendance will be managed via the feedback form. So if you want to show that you were here, we'll have record of it in the recording with the participants list, but also be sure to fill out that feedback form.
The Office of Curriculum and Educational Planning can help with the process of updating the district master syllabus if needed. There we go. Thank you, Isaac. That's fantastic. We all work together toward a common goal.
And I also want to clarify that when we say that some of those district mandated outcomes are not well written in terms of being smart, in terms of measurable and specific, it's not meant to be a critique. Some of those were written a long time ago. And we, in the name of continuous improvement, we can always go back and try and fix these things. So it's not meant to be a criticism. It's just a fact. In some cases, some of those district mandated objectives or outcomes are not the greatest in terms of the way they're written.
And there is some flexibility for the module outcomes. The district one is written with a little bit of flexibility, and it's a little soft to allow for some instructor academic freedom. So there's a positive spin on that as well. But we're not attempting to be critical of that at all. It's just some feedback that we've gotten is that, you're saying write a SMART goal and this doesn't appear to be measurable. And but there's flexibility, and you can certainly write something that's measurable for those goals. All right, well, we're gonna, I think, stop the recording now. If there are no other questions, make sure you fill out that feedback survey. That's your attendance for this session. It will give everybody time to take a quick restroom break before the next session begins, which is scheduled at, I'm just gonna double check before I say it. 10 o'clock. So it gives you about 5 minutes to go to the restroom, refill your coffee,